Literally the biggest problem I see in the industry is that brands go ahead, they test ads, and then they just determine if it's good or bad, and then they just make more ads to test. The issue is that there's no real feedback loop and you can't exactly say, okay, why did this creative fail or why not? So in this video, I will explain my framework in detail of how we analyze ads and how we determine creative bottlenecks so that you can see exactly what's going wrong in your ads, improve that part, get way more winning ads and scale your brands way faster. My name is William and I've generated over 12 million in sales for 7 to 8 figure e-commerce brands with performance creatives and meta ad systems. With that having said, let's get straight into the video. So the first thing that you want to do correctly is to set up the columns. You want to go by amount spent, then budget, reach, impressions, frequency, video average play rate, and so on. Basically just copy these columns. Just very important thing, instead of using here click-through rate, use just unique outbound click-through rate, because that means you don't count the same person twice and you only count like clicks that actually lead to your landing page or product page, not the clicks that are like likes or comments. And then the same goes for cost per unique outbound click. Another thing you want to define is the hook rate or thumb stop rate. This is just the first 3 seconds played of the video divided by the total impressions. Another custom metric you want to look for is the hold rate. So this is video 3 plays divided by impressions in percent, and then also the AOV, which is the purchase value divided by the amount of purchases, and the conversion rate, which is purchases divided by landing page views. So before being able to analyze your ads and your creative bottlenecks, it's very important that you set up your Facebook columns like this, because here you can essentially see it follows the micro chain action that people take before they buy your product. They first get hooked by your video, then they click on the video, then they add your product to cart, they initiate the checkout, and then they purchase. And of course, on the way, you have like many different conversion rates, like the click-through rate, like the add to cart to checkout ratio, like the landing page view to add to cart ratio, and so on and so on. So you want to keep track of all of them to make sure you find the bottleneck in the funnel if there is one. The conversion rate here is also very interesting, because you might be thinking, well, I have the conversion rate and the AOV on Shopify, but that's not the same. On Shopify, you just see the average AOV and the average conversion rate. On Facebook, you will see specific AOVs and specific conversion rates from specific ads. And then you will actually find that specific ads attract an audience that is way easier to convert by your landing page and has like a conversion rate of 4%, but then other ads generate traffic that just converts like with 1%. So in this way, you can actually also control the conversion rate of your audience depending on who you attract with your ads. But now with all that having said, and once you have all this set up, let's look into our ad creative analysis framework. So here we are, and this is the creative analysis framework. So first of all, we always want to determine the creative bottleneck, regardless of whether it's a winning ad or a losing ad. If it's a winning ad, we know how to iterate and improve it. And if it's a losing ad, we know what we should avoid in all future ads to make them better. So first of all, let's say it's a video ad, then we want to look at the micro chain action that actually people take. So first of all, they get hooked, and we want to check, okay, is the hook rate an KPI? We go for at least 30% hook rate. So if it's below 30%, then it's certainly improvable. If it's like 40%, 50%, that's amazing. But if it's below 30%, then you know, okay, the hook is the bottleneck. Like the other metrics don't even matter that much, because if not enough people get hooked, then like, of course, not enough people will watch it to the end, and of course, not enough people will click on it. So if it's the first like step of the funnel, we already know what the problem is. And if that's already the problem, you want to check, okay, what creative element makes it actually low? Is it the visual hook? Is it the text hook? You make a hypothesis, and that way you can systematically find a formula for high performing hooks, okay? So, but if this is actually in KPI and at least 30%, then of course you also want to analyze, okay, why is the hook rate so good? And then you want to keep doing that for all your future ads. After that, you want to ask yourself, okay, is the hold rate in KPI? And we go for at least 10%. So people who watch it from the beginning to the end. If it's not, then it's a retention problem. Then you want to look at the structure of the ad. You want to analyze the video average playtime to find where most people drop off. And basically you just want to make it more interesting so that people follow through to the end until they have the call to action. So again, if it's lower than 10%, that's the bottleneck. You also want to check if there's some fat that you can cut from the ad. So basically, if you can remove something without it losing its meaning, then you of course want to remove it, keep it as brief and to the point as possible. And whatever your hypothesis is for why people dropped off, just test that in your new tests. But if the hold rate is also good, then we just follow the same flow as for the static ads. Because if we have enough people watching it and watching it to the end, then it might be the click-through rate. And with static ads, of course, we only have the click-through rate that matters here. So regardless of whether you are analyzing right now a video or a static, for a static you start here, for a video you continue here. So here you want to check if the click-through rate is in KPI. We go for at least 2% click-through rate. You can also get a winner with like 1.5%. It's still kind of decent, but we like to set 2% as a minimum. And you also want to kind of compare it to your other winning ads, because if you're spending a lot, CTRs tend to go down. But if you are still getting winning ads, you just want to look at your other winning concepts to establish a baseline. But most of the time, like still 2% should be possible. So if the click-through rate is not in KPI, then that is the bottleneck. You want to ask yourself, why is the click-through rate low? What creative elements make it low? Most of the time it will be no incentive to actually click, or no curiosity from the ad to the landing page. You don't want to over-explain anything in your ad, and you want to leave curiosity for people to click and get on your landing page or product page. But if the click-through rate is in KPI, you want to check if the CPM is as low as on other winning concepts, because it might be that this ad just targets a very expensive audience. And then of course you can have a great click-through rate, but your cost per click will be just so high that it's still not profitable. In that case, you just want to target with your messaging and with your headline, with your visuals, an audience segment which is less expensive. But if the click-through rate is fine and the CPM is regular, you want to check the conversion rate or the AOV on the website. And again, don't check Shopify for this, but check actually the metrics in the Facebook Ads Manager, because this gives you metrics for each single ad. And you will usually find that if you're at this point and the ad is a loser, it's either attracting an audience that purchases for less and the AOV on that ad is low, or an audience like traffic that is of lower quality and just not as qualified to buy, and that leads to a lower conversion rate from this ad specifically. It might also be that it's not the audience, but just the ad not pre-selling well. For example, if you have a clickbaity static ad that has an open question and then they click on it, but then they get just to a product page, they're like, what am I doing here? And then they leave again. It might be also an issue with the messaging on the ad. This is what you want to analyze and then avoid if it's a losing ad that you're analyzing right now. Another thing you want to do is also determine the winning visuals and headlines from your split test. So I always say you have to be running scientific split tests. If you're not doing it yet, just start right now. In an ad set, when you launch it, you should have split testing variants of your ads. For example, if it's a video ad, just launch not just one ad, but launch this video ad with 3 different hook variations. Or if it's a static ad, then just launch the static ad with different designs, because those have the biggest impact on the audience that it attracts and the performance of the ad. So from this split test, you can actually also have learnings depending on where Facebook decides to spend most of the budget. So depending on that, you want to check, okay, what visual split test variant got the most spent? And then you want to check your hypothesis between what you've been actually testing in your visuals. And from that, you can derive a learning. For example, this or that visual performs better. For example, showing the pain point performs better, or showing the desired outcome performs better, or showing like an unboxing, rather unlikely, but might be, is performing better, and so on. Also, if it was, for example, a headline split test, you just want to see what headlines resonates more. And from that, you can also derive learnings like what angles to go for with your ads, with your future ads. And then also, if you've been running an ad text split test, like the primary text and the headline within Facebook, then you want to check, okay, what got the most spent and which one you want to move forward with. This way, you're also iterating not just on visuals and ad creatives, but also on the captions, on the ad text, and on the headlines. And one more thing that I like to do is actually determine the position in the funnel. Like sometimes you want to make a top of funnel ad, or like most of the times you may want to make a top of funnel ad to attract new people in your funnel and convert them into customers. Like you can make also middle of funnel ads that attract people that already know about you and convert them. They are usually more profitable, but not as scalable, because of course way more people are outside of your funnel than inside in your funnel. So really what drives growth in the account are top of funnel ads. But still you might launch a test and then see that this ad has a higher frequency than other ads. In that case, it might be that the ad is actually targeting a middle of funnel or bottom funnel audience, and you want to make sure that your headline and your angle and your visual hook actually attract new fresh people into your funnel and not just attract people who are already in your funnel. So it should appeal and make sense to people who don't know your brand, instead of just making sense if they already know you. But another thing is, if you have a winning ad that had a low frequency, like 1 point something in the beginning, and now is at a frequency of 2, 3, 4, then that's a sign for burnout of the ad that's soon gonna happen. And that just means that you should find new winners and iterate this winning ad as soon as possible to also appeal to other segments in your audience, so that you avoid a dip in your account as soon as this ad burns out. Now, if you're running your brand and you scale, but you need help with high performing creatives and this creative feedback loop that I just mentioned, just click the link in the description and schedule a free call with me today. But also, if you want to learn how to make winning ads yourself and how to make it very likely to hit for them, just watch this video where I explain how to take apart winning ads for competitors and using them for your own purposes without directly copying them. Check it out. See you